Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video, I'm going to be checking out and testing 3 blades. One from Abracs, one from Saxton and one from Trend. Check out the video. All the blades are brand new. Abracs and Saxton are 80 teeth blades, whereas the Trend has got 72 teeth. So they're all dedicated for fine cutting, finishing work, anything like that. And the curve on these blades is exactly the same at 2.8 millimeters. Now I'm going to be using my miter saw to do all the tests. I'm going to be cutting a laminated chipboard, melamine board, and some plywood. That's the most problematic materials I find. I'm not going to be using any zero clearance plates, anything like that, just box standard. And each time I'm going to try to do the cut exactly the same for all 3 blades. Also on my last video when I was testing some other blades, I'm going to drop a link down below to that. It was a Saxton 42 blade and Freud 42 blades after 2 years of use. So if you want to check that video, the link is down below in the description of this video. But on that video I had few comments and actually a few emails as well to check out how loud my saw would be using different blades. So in this video that's exactly what we're going to check out as well. I'm going to set up my decibel meter and we'll have a look if there's actually any noise difference between those 3 blades. I'm quite curious to see if there is or isn't. First of all, I'm gonna whack the Trend blade into my miter saw and we'll do all the cuts on that first. After that, the Saxton blade, and at the end we'll have a look at the Abracs blade. When I'll do all the cuts, we'll compare it at the end of the video. Okay, as you can see, that is my setup for the decibel recording. It's about a meter away from the saw itself. I've got a second camera just pointing at that. So let's have a look. First test, Trend blade and the melamine board. Obviously, to make this test work really well, I'm not going to be using the shop vac, just to make sure we can hear any difference in the noise aspect. Now the plywood is actually a sandwich of 2 boards 18mm in thickness. Now it's time to swap out the Trend for the Saxton blade. Right, Saxton blade in. Let's have a look. And now let's have a look how the Saxton blade will cope with the plywood. And now it's time to check out the Abracs blade. Initially, I actually had an issue with the bore hole, which is 30mm, and my saw is Evolution saw, where the bore hole is 25.4. Now I had few reducing rings that actually were not fitting this blade, but fortunately I managed to actually pick up a set from a cardboard basically that fits this blade perfectly. Hence, I'm ever so happy to give it a go now and see how it performs. Okay, time for the Abracs blade. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look at the results. On the top, those two, that's Trend, then we've got Saxton, and at the end we've got Abracs. And to be absolutely honest with you, straight away I can see the blade from Trend, it seems to have actually the least tear out of them. Now, for example, you can see that the slight tear out starts just over here. Saxton, the tear out starts a lot earlier, and same with the Abracs. And you can see the Abracs over here as the Saxton, the tear outs are quite heavy and quite deep. Whereas with the Trend, it's actually quite minimal. Basically just one really big in, and the rest is quite minimal. Let me just show you that from a bit of up close. So that's the Trend. Saxton. And Abracs. Now, I would say definitely Trend is the best here. Next, I would say Abracs and Saxton are more or less the same. There's not much difference between them. Let's have a look on the reverse side, how that's looking like. Okay, on the back, actually, look at that. Tiny little tear out on the Trend. However, the rest is clean. With the Saxton blade, the whole back is absolutely spot on, no tear out at all. And over here, with the Abracs, slight tear out just on this side, but all in all, very, very clean as well. I would still consider the Trend to have the best quality, as it does have the least amount of tear out of all three blades. Okay, let's have a look at the plywood. Okay, here again we've got Trend at the top, Saxton in the middle, Abracs at the bottom. And I have to say, in this test, I think the Abracs is actually the worst with the heaviest tear out here. And then Saxton and Trend, I would probably say the Saxton is slightly better than the Trend. However, it's very hard to say which one is actually worst. So have a look from up close. So that's the Trend. And as you can see, it is quite heavy. Obviously, over here on the right hand side, that we scored the line first, and then we plunged and pulled the saw, you can see that it creates a lot of tear out. And it's quite heavy. Okay, Saxton. I would actually say that the Saxton has got slightly larger pieces of ply, so the tear out is actually worse than Trend. And Abracs is definitely by far the worst in this scenario. So again, I would say Trend is not too bad. However, between Saxton and Trend, not much of a difference. Okay, let's flip them over. And I hope you can see that all three are really, really reasonable, and there's not much difference between them. There's slight tear out on this side, however, I think that's just the piece of plywood I've got. All in all, the lines are absolutely nice and sharp. No major tear out, no tear out at all really on all three blades. But how about the noise levels? As you've seen, I've put the meter on screen for you, but I've also captured the highest points as far as I know anyway. So the Saxton one with the melamine board, the highest I found was 100.1, whereas with the plywood 100.5. Okay, with the Trend blade 100.2 and 99.6, so a tiny bit quieter, and the Abracs 100.1 and 100.1. Okay, so all in all, I have to say there's more or less no difference in the noise between them. However, I have to say, whereas the feeling and how to operate the saw I actually felt the trend to give the least resistance as you were cutting through the material. Now, I am quite surprised. I thought Saxton would be a lot better in that respect than it is. And Abracs and Saxton seems to be on the similar, very similar quality here, with the trend actually leading the pack. So it seems that the trend is giving much better results. However, this is only part one of the test, and the most important part two will probably come down in about a year's time, until I had enough time with all three blades, until they went through enough boards in my workshop to give them some proper work in my workshop. And at that point, after that time, we'll be able to see how they actually operate after some time when they've been used for a while. So if you don't want to miss that video in far future, make sure to subscribe to my channel and drop me that like button if you actually enjoyed today's video. Now, as I said, brand new blades, the results are very, very comparable. However, I can see that the trend is actually better than the other two. If I were to give places to all of them, definitely trend top place. Second, I will actually probably go for the Saxton blade, and Abracs on the third place, especially with the performance with the plywood. I think it's actually worse than the Saxton blade. However, the difference is really absolutely minimal. So I leave it with you guys. I'm going to drop links to those blades down below in the description of this video, so you can have a look on Amazon how much they are and which one will fit your pocket and your needs the best. But for now, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. Take care.